My spouse announced she wanted a divorce right in our home. "You can't afford a lawyer to challenge me," she said. I responded, "You're correct." But when she served me papers in court, she saw the state's most formidable, high-priced divorce attorney take a seat beside me. He glanced at her and said, "He doesn't need to pay me. I'm his big brother." My wife, Sophia, told me last Tuesday she was done with our marriage. There was no trace of sorrow in her gaze, no hint of remorse in her tone. It was a proclamation of triumph. We were in the living room of the house we'd spent 8 years making ours. Her words carried the cold finality of a boardroom termination. "It's finished, Jack," she said, sliding a manila folder across the coffee table. "I've consulted a lawyer. Here are my terms." I didn't touch the folder. I didn't need to. She eagerly laid out her demands. The house, funded partly by my grandfather's savings, 70% of our joint account, and alimony for at least 5 years. This wasn't a discussion. It was a demand for capitulation. When she finished, she leaned back with a smug, victorious grin. "Let's not make this messy, Jack," she said, her tone laced with patronizing sympathy. "Be practical. You're a high school art teacher with a modest salary. A top lawyer's fees would crush you before you even step into court. Just sign the terms and move on." I sat there staring at the woman I'd loved, the woman I'd built a life with, and felt a deep chill settle in. She didn't just want to end our marriage. She wanted to destroy me. She saw me as vulnerable, an obstacle to obliterate. Her trump card, she believed, was my inability to fight back. I let the silence linger. Then, with a face of calm surrender, I said the 2 words she expected. "You're correct." Her relief was instant. She thought she'd won. The quiet teacher wouldn't resist. She stood, adjusted her blouse, and said, "Smart choice. I'm glad you're being reasonable. You'll get the papers next week." Then she left the room. Here's what Sophia knew. I lived simply, with no spare thousands for a legal war. She also knew I had an older brother, Victor, but she was counting on the fact that we hadn't spoken in 5 years. Victor isn't a teacher. He's a legal titan, the most feared and costly divorce attorney in the state, whose name sends shivers through opposing counsel. We'd fallen out after our parents' deaths, over the family home we grew up in. I wanted to keep it as a touchstone of memories, a place for family gatherings. I'm nostalgic like that. Victor, ever practical, saw it as a frozen asset to sell and split. Our bitter fight left us estranged, a rift Sophia had seen firsthand. She believed my strongest ally was out of reach, a non-factor in her calculated plan. She was mistaken. For 3 days after her ultimatum, I was in a dark spiral. She was right about one thing. I couldn't afford her kind of fight. Losing my home, my savings, everything I'd worked for felt like a chokehold. On the 4th day, I hit bottom, and from there, I could only climb. Swallowing the pride that had kept me from Victor for 5 years, I dug up his private number. My hands trembled as I dialed, expecting voicemail or a curt assistant. But after 2 rings, his deep, familiar voice answered. "Victor, it's Jack," I said, my voice unsteady. A long pause followed. I braced for him to hang up. "Jackie," he said, using my old nickname. Strange after so long. "What's going on?" I spilled everything. Sophia's demands, her lawyer, her icy demeanor, and her final taunt about my inability to afford a fight. Another heavy silence hung between us. When he spoke, his tone had shifted. Gone was the surprise, replaced by the fierce protectiveness I hadn't heard in years. "She said what?" he asked, his voice low and sharp. I repeated her words. "All right," he said. "When's the first court date and where?" "Next Tuesday, downtown courthouse," I replied. "I'll clear my calendar," he said. "Don't talk to her lawyer, or sign anything. Just show up Tuesday. I'll be there." We hung up. My heart raced with a mix of fear and fragile hope. Sophia thought she'd stripped me of options. She didn't know she'd just handed me a game changer. She was about to learn what family truly means. The morning of the preliminary hearing was a dreary, rainy Tuesday, fitting for the occasion. I entered the courthouse alone, feeling every bit the defeated man Sophia expected. I wore my only good suit, reserved for rare occasions like weddings or funerals. Today felt like both. The courtroom was cold, smelling of dusty files and tension. Sophia was already at the plaintiff's table, looking flawless in a sleek black suit, her hair impeccable, radiating confidence like she was closing a business deal. Beside her sat her lawyer, a man in his 50s with a smug grin that seemed permanent. They were chuckling softly as I walked in. Sophia caught my eye, her smile flickering to pity. She probably thought I'd look more broken. I met her gaze, expressionless, and took my seat at the defendant's table, setting down my worn briefcase. Her lawyer strolled over. "Mr. Carter," he said, his tone dripping with arrogance, "I assume you've reviewed my client's fair offer." Sign today, and we'll keep this short and sweet. I'm waiting for my counsel, I said calmly. He laughed. Your counsel? Best of luck with that. Let's not prolong the inevitable. He returned to his table. The bailiff called the court to order, and the judge, a no-nonsense woman, took her seat. Carter versus Carter, she declared. Are both parties present and represented? Sophia's lawyer stood. Yes, Your Honor. Gregory Wells, representing Mrs. Sophia Carter. The judge looked at me. Before I could respond, the courtroom doors swung open with a heavy thud. All eyes turned. Striding down the aisle was Victor Sterling, my brother, dressed in a suit that looked like it was forged from shadow and authority. He moved with the confidence of a lion, his polished briefcase swinging lightly. Whispers spread as lawyers and staff recognized him. His reputation was legendary. He didn't glance at anyone. His eyes locked on me. He reached my table, placed a hand on my shoulder, and gave a reassuring squeeze before sitting down, his briefcase landing with a sharp, resonant click that echoed in the quiet room. I glanced at Sophia. Her confident smirk had vanished, replaced by a look of sheer, horrified shock. Her jaw dropped, her eyes wide, as if a specter had just taken a seat. Her lawyer looked even worse, his face pale, his smirk erased by raw panic. He knew exactly who Victor was. Victor leaned toward me, ignoring the room. Sorry I'm late, little bro, he whispered, a faint smirk on his lips. Traffic was brutal. Then he straightened, all business, and faced the judge. Victor Sterling, Your Honor, he said, his voice a deep, commanding force. Representing the defendant, Mr. Jackson Carter. The judge's eyebrows rose. She knew the name, as did everyone. Then Victor turned slowly, deliberately, to Sophia and her lawyer, offering a chilling, calculated smile. My apologies for the delay, he said, his tone laced with mock courtesy. Then, locking eyes with Sophia, he delivered the line that shattered her plan. He doesn't need to pay me. I'm his big brother. The dynamic had shifted. Sophia thought she was walking into a rout. She'd stumbled into a trap. Victor opened his briefcase, pulled out a thick stack of documents, and began dismantling her case. He rejected her demands as exploitative and filed in bad faith, announcing our intent to countersue. He demanded a full forensic audit of all marital assets and expenses for the past 3 years, and insisted Sophia cover my legal fees. Her lawyer stood, stammering, a small fish facing a shark. The fight was over before it started. The next 2 months were a legal onslaught. Victor doesn't just practice law, he wages it like a campaign. Sophia and her lawyer thought they'd steamroll me. Instead, they faced a relentless assault. Victor's first move was a discovery motion so thorough it was almost artistic, demanding every financial record Sophia had touched in 5 years. Bank statements, credit card bills, PayPal transactions, everything. Her lawyer tried to dismiss it as excessive and harassing, but the judge, clearly wary of Victor's reputation, approved it in full after reading his airtight rationale. Sophia had to comply. She thought she'd covered her tracks. She didn't know Victor employed forensic accountants for sport. While Sophia scrambled with paperwork, Victor targeted her personally, scheduling depositions with her, her friends, family, and co-workers. His tactic was clear: pressure her from every angle until the truth emerged. The turning point came during the deposition of Sophia's best friend, Lila. Lila was fiercely loyal, but no match for Victor's polite, charming, and merciless questioning. For 3 hours, he probed her about Sophia's spending, her business trips, her satisfaction in our marriage. Then he dropped the bombshell. Ms. Harper, tell me about Mr. Ethan Ramsey. Lila flinched. The name meant nothing to me, but Victor waited patiently. When Lila deflected, he produced a hidden credit card statement, tied to our joint savings, showing a year of unauthorized withdrawals. He highlighted charges: a coastal resort stay, luxury handbags, lavish dinners for 2. Miss Carter was supposedly at a work conference these dates, Victor said. Her employer confirms no such conference existed. You weren't with her. So, who is Ethan Ramsey? Lila cracked under oath. Ethan Ramsey was a wealthy tech investor Sophia had been seeing for 18 months, met through her former job. It all fell into place: her secrecy, her aggressive demands, her confidence. She wasn't just leaving me. She was funding a new life with him using our money. Ethan's deposition was even more revealing. Arrogant at first, he wilted under Victor's relentless questions, admitting the affair, and that he'd encouraged Sophia to demand the house and alimony, assuming I'd be too broke to fight. They'd misjudged me and my family. With these admissions, Sophia's case collapsed. She'd lied in her filings, claiming fidelity, and hid marital funds. Her lawyer called Victor, pleading to settle, offering to drop all demands and walk away. Victor's response was icy. No, walking away is a luxury she hasn't earned. We're going to trial, and we're going to crush her. She wanted a battle. Now she had one. 6 months after that first courtroom moment, when I thought I'd lost everything, I stand corrected. I lost nothing that truly mattered. I gained it all. The final court date was a formality. Overwhelmed by evidence, depositions, financial audits, proof of her affair and fraud, Sophia had no choice but to concede. Her lawyer, exhausted and defeated, urged her to accept our terms. Victor's terms were unforgiving. Sophia forfeited any claim to the house. Her alimony request was thrown out. And because Victor proved she'd spent over $60,000 of our joint funds on her affair, hotels, gifts, trips with Ethan, the judge ordered her to repay it from her share of our savings. She left with a fraction of what she'd demanded, buried in her own legal fees, and publicly exposed as a liar and schemer. Her personal life unraveled too. Ethan, drawn to her confidence, dropped her when she became a public failure. Her friends, forced to testify about her deceit, pulled away. She lost her fiancé, her home, her savings, her lover, and her reputation in one devastating blow, all because she underestimated the quiet man she'd married. But the real victory wasn't the courtroom. It was my brother. Weeks after the divorce was finalized, Victor called. "Meet me at the old house." I drove to our childhood home, the root of our 5-year feud. He was on the porch, sitting quietly. We didn't discuss the case or Sophia. We reminisced about Dad's awful camping trips, Mom's legendary peach cobbler, our childhood antics. After a long pause, he looked at me. "I was wrong, Jackie," he said. "I was so caught up in the value of the house, I forgot what it meant, our home." "I was wrong too," I admitted. I was stuck holding on to the past, blind to a new future for it. We didn't sell the house. We're restoring it together, fixing the roof, repainting walls, breathing life back into it. It's no longer a shrine to yesterday, but a project for tomorrow, a place for our true family to reconnect. Working alongside Victor, tools in hand, has mended a rift I thought permanent. Sophia's final jab was that I couldn't afford a lawyer. Her greed, her hubris, her belief I was powerless and alone. That's what pushed me to call Victor, reuniting us. She thought she'd leave me with nothing. But today, with my home secure and my brother back in my life, I see I have everything.